All right, howdy everybody. Hope you had a good Friday. Heading into the weekend, unfortunately, crypto is very red. But we're going to talk about where we stand, what we're looking at, bigger picture, some short-term bounce setups to be watching. And we'll stick to about a half hour today. Keep it light. Got midnight. What am I drinking? Irish dry stout. Nights like these, birds fly south. New. Not bad. We'll get started here in 20 seconds or so. Just got back playing some baseball. Haven't done that in a long time. It's spring. Flowers are sprouting. Lots of work to be done outside this weekend. Frogs are already laying eggs. I'm going to start doing a lot more outside content like I did today on Twitter. Little garlic video. So make sure and follow us on Twitter or Facebook because I put out stuff there. Just little short videos that don't warrant a YouTube video. And I'm going to try and make a video tomorrow about the books that I've read even before I was considering trading that established a foundation of psychology and how that benefited me as a trader later. So I'm going to be brainstorming and creating that video tomorrow. And hopefully I'll put that out. Well, I won't box myself in, but hopefully this weekend. So going to go over a little rundown here. We're going to look at the broader market, stocks. We're going to look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, Luna, Mana, and then I will interact with you all. Appreciate you all tuning in, spending your Friday afternoon with me. So obviously a lot of red. So the S&P 500, and we're seeing right now, obviously a lot of weakness in crypto the last couple days. And you look at the S&P 500, it doesn't look that bad. The bears are in control of the longer term trend, absolutely. But, a pullback today, a little bit of a bounce, not that bad. There are some sectors that are holding up the S&P 500 better than others. The healthcare sector is nice and green over the last couple of days. But if you look at the NASDAQ, QQQ is a bit weaker. So for me, rather than looking at SPY to correlate with Bitcoin when it's like this, I can say, okay, well, Bitcoin's clearly weaker than SPY. QQQ is clearly weaker than SPY. I'm going to be looking at QQQ as my guide. And QQQ has the tech sector as the majority of its holdings. And so in this instance, that's what I'm keeping an eye on. And what we're watching for is, are we going to continue the weekly downtrend? That's pretty much the question for the rest of March. Anything under 370.10 is just a weekly lower high. And we have a fear low that we're keeping an eye on. And it's just a question of, can we follow through with a bounce, or do we break our fear low and see the bears continue to keep complete control? And obviously, if we were to break that fear low in the broader market, I would anticipate Bitcoin's heading down towards 30,000 or potentially even below. So that's still 30% away. So we'll say heading down towards the low 30,000s if the broader stock market continues to hit fresh lows and can't find a support that we're going to hold. And a lot of that had to do, Bitcoin's obviously been very weak today. The hourly RSI is absolutely crushed. And so we know bigger picture on the weekly time frame. Thank you for the heads up. I got to shrink my fat face. You just saved me a lot of time. If I just did a half hour like that. Whew. All right. So QQQ is a bit weaker than the S&P 500. So we see SPY. SPY has a long lower wick. We closed higher than we opened. We've got the healthcare sector is much stronger, and that is the third most important sector in the S&P 500. And again, QQQ clearly weaker than the S&P 500. Bitcoin clearly weaker than the S&P 500. So that's the correlation I'm looking at. So Bitcoin on the weekly time frame, the bears have control right now. Again, even if you're bullish crypto, you like trading bounces, put yourself in the mindset of a bear. I know some of you watching are in bearish profitable positions. Congratulations. But even if you look bullish and trade bullish, put yourself in a bear mindset. If you are a bear, do you have anything to worry about? Nothing on this chart is giving you a red flag. You bounce and set a weekly lower high. You set another weekly lower high. You fail resistance, and you can't get over weekly EMA 12. So if I'm a bear, I can say I have zero concerns as long as weekly EMA 12 is resistance. And we've got our supports that we're looking down at, 34.3 and 32.9. Okay, that's the weekly chart. And I'm well aware that if we continue to trade within this range on the weekly, things can get a bit choppy on the daily time frame. Right now, the daily is nice and clear, which we'll look at in just a moment. But we know that equilibriums on one time frame mean things can get choppy on the shorter term time frame as they form. So zooming into the daily, we had a big bull move. When we tested our key weekly resistance, we were extended, right? The bulls moved a significant amount in a short period of time, and they ran out of momentum. And I just always view it, the analogy is a bull is running, and he's clearing hurdles, and he's breaking resistance. And by the time he gets to the biggest resistance, a big pile of rocks and sticks that he has to get over, he's used up all his energy sprinting to get there, and he can't break over it. And so now we have rolled over very significantly. And what this pullback does is it creates a ton of space where the next time we bounce, bears are waiting for a daily lower high. That's the most likely scenario because we can bounce 10% from this moment right now and still just be looking for a lower high somewhere in the 43s. So bears are extremely comfortable is the bottom line. And the simple statement along with the weekly EMA 12 is if we do not break 45.9 thousand, bears don't have anything to worry about. So in the short term, we are very beat up. And a lot of that had to do with broader market. You know, the S&P 500 struggled to bounce today. Or let's look at QQQ. QQQ struggled to bounce today. It finally did midday. So let's just see weakness all morning, 9:30 to 11. 11 to 1 p.m. we bounced. How does that compare to Bitcoin? So here's that 11 a.m. bounce when the stock market bounced. And then this leg down was just absolutely magnified, way more significant than QQQ saw. So we could say Bitcoin has a bearish correlation to SPY and to QQQ. And the hourly RSI is crushed. The information that we got from the hourly RSI back here was notable. First hourly oversold conditions after the multiple day run. If we're going to say strong, that hourly oversold needs to mark our daily high or low. And if it had, right here, we just barely kissed hourly oversold. And if that had marked our daily high or low, that's healthy retracement. That's holding EMA 12. So even if I'm not looking to play that bounce, it gives me information. The RSI and how the price responds to it gives me information. That would have been a retracement size of about 40%, and that would have showed me bulls are lined up to buy the dip. Bulls that might have missed the big 2-day breakout are looking for their second chance. But as soon as that hourly oversold bounce rolls over into a lower low, that is your red flag. And that tells you, okay, now we're starting to create more space and the daily lower high is now becoming the more likely scenario. And we know that this is not your typical strong A+ bull setup because if it were, that's the daily high or low. We change the hourly trend back to the bulls and we head back up to try and see daily continuation. So that was the first red flag right there, that new lower low, the first red flag on this pullback. And I played a bounce here. I was playing mana, and we'll talk about mana in just a moment when we get to it and why I was playing it. But I exited half into the hourly bounce as the hourly RSI cooled off, and then I stopped out break even when we dropped to a lower low. So it was an uneventful trade, but knowing that that lower low would have been a red flag to me is why I exited that whole position at that point as opposed to just continuing to scale in. Because obviously at this point right now, we're crushed on the hourly. So aggressive bulls are looking for a bounce because the hourly RSI is in the teens, but we have to keep in mind, again, we're now, this is not first hourly oversold conditions. We're not coming from a strong daily move. We're coming from a double top. And the 4-hour RSI is only just getting oversold. So you know that, or I've said many times, that I go aggressive playing bounces when the more time frames that are aligned oversold, the better. So if you give me 4-hour RSI in the low 20s, hourly RSI in the teens, 15-minute, 5-minute, all oversold, I'm going to go aggressive. But right now, the 4-hour is only just barely getting there, and the 15-minute just cooled off on this bounce attempt, and the 5-minute is not oversold. It's just the hourly. So it's only one time frame. And again, if you want to be aggressive, that's enough to be scouting a bounce, but it's not enough for me to be going aggressive. I need to see a lot more weakness if that were going to be the case. And it's also the kind of situation where maybe I don't even want to play this bounce because I know that the likely result of this bounce is just a daily lower high. I want to play bounces where the most likely scenario is continuation of an uptrend on a longer term time frame. And if the most likely scenario is just a daily lower high, I have a smaller window to work with where I can, capture my profit. If it's a if I'm trying to make an entry and it ends up being a 4% bounce and maybe I can get 2% of that move as opposed to a continuation move that's 7% of follow through and I can get 5% of that move, it's a much different story. So we are shifting momentum right now. And for me, if we confirm a daily downtrend from here, that's going to be a red flag that our weekly lower high is set and we're heading back down to the low 30,000s to test these two support levels. So it's looking a little bleak and it's definitely some of the weakness in the broader market. I mean, we reacted. It's the kind of thing where if you're a maximalist in Bitcoin or crypto or whatever, it's really frustrating because Bitcoin and the entire cryptocurrency space dropped yesterday in reaction to the Russia-Ukraine nuclear news with the fires and all that. And all you got to do is look at what the S&P 500 futures did at 7 p.m. Eastern last night. And it's right here, a big red candle. And what did Bitcoin do at 7 p.m. Eastern? That's when we rolled over. And that hourly bounce did not mark. Where is it? 7 p.m. 19. So yeah, right there. That's where the hourly bounce did not mark the daily high or low. And you can say that we got that fresh, hard leg down because Russia news reaction. So it's frustrating. You know, Bitcoin macro is going to do its thing, but micro really zoomed in. It's now reacting to these correlations. And it is frustrating for bulls to have to pay attention to this. I mean, really, you got to be paying attention to news and the broader market because as soon as that happened and as soon as I saw that reaction, that says to me, RSI levels can get more extreme than usual. This is a news reaction, and we have to be watching the broader market futures if we're going to be looking to play any kind of bounce. So with where we stand right now, we're heading down towards these lows, and the bears have absolute complete control, and we know that even if we do bounce from here, we're just going to be looking for an hourly lower high with EMA 12 resistance that has been resistance for the last 24 hours plus. So we can bounce a couple percent, set an hourly lower high. As soon as that hourly RSI cools off, we're then going to be in a scenario where no RSI levels are oversold anymore. So there's a lot of bear momentum is the bottom line. And the burden of proof is absolutely on the bulls on the weekly, daily, and every lower time frame. The burden is on the bears on the monthly. We are in a monthly uptrend. But every other time frame, the burden is on the bulls because we are in a downtrend on every other time frame. We're not officially in a daily downtrend, but size of the daily pullback is obviously a red flag. And so again, when I'm looking to see how beat up are we, I check out the Trader Pro alerts and I check out the hourly, and I want to know, are we seeing our back burner? Well, we're not seeing back burners because we're coming off a double top, but where are our oversold signals here? Are we seeing super stacks? And the hourly is seeing these oversold levels. These were overbought levels, but again, it's only the hourly. And oversold climax, that fired off on the hourly, but nothing on the 4 hour. So again, I can't go aggressive if the 4 hour is not beat up. Bitcoin dominance chart is dropping notably. So this shows us that Bitcoin is leading the way down and altcoins are not dropping as hard as Bitcoin on this most recent leg down. And looking at the weekly time frame, we know we're scouting a weekly lower high, but still a pattern of a higher low every single week for the last 7 weeks, and that's going to remain intact likely through this week when we close in 2 days. And it's a shift has taken place in the last week plus where Bitcoin is leading the way up and it's leading the way down. And usually it's alts doing that. So it's definitely a very notable shift for me in how the market environment has changed over the last week. And for me, that just means pause and observe, trade less, observe more, get a better grip of what's going on, get a grip of the new relationships between Bitcoin and the altcoins and how they're trading. And again, for me, it's simple. If we are within this weekly range, I'm trading Bitcoin a lot less and trading altcoins a lot less. I'm trading crypto a lot less if we're in a weekly equilibrium. Ethereum, also weak with the weekly lower high and EMA 12 resistance. The daily time frame support is approaching 25.58. And it's the same deal where even if we bounce from here, we're going to be scouting a daily lower high to be the result of this bounce. And if we roll over and drop and break weekly support, monthly, still in an uptrend, still space to work with, but the bulls really don't want to see this monthly inside bar break bear. They certainly want to see that inside bar break bull. So what we would have to see over the next week is a complete character shift with bulls giving us confidence. We saw a big push from the bulls. We didn't see many supports established on the way up, and now we are seeing the result of that. If you shoot straight up and don't establish supports, it's much easier to fall back down as opposed to establishing the uptrend, building support levels, and then revisiting them on the consolidation. Ethereum BTC is also weak, but it's right at support here. So I've got a downtrending support line. I've got two supports. I'm watching this 12-hour downtrending support line, which is still in play, and I'm watching the weekly support, which is the horizontal line here that the bulls are attempting to defend. So daily time frame, we know we're just going to scout a daily lower high to be the result of this bounce. And bigger picture, I'm scouting for a monthly higher low on Ethereum. But again, the bulls have a ton of work to do, and we have remained notably weaker than Bitcoin over the last week. And the question is, does that change? Does that shift? Or do we continue to remain weaker than Bitcoin? Again, if you take me a week back in time and you say Bitcoin's dumping, what do you think Ethereum's doing? My automatic answer is it's dropping harder, because that has been the most, probability-wise, that has happened the most often in the last year and a half, 2 years. And it's not the case right now. The ETH BTC chart is bouncing while Bitcoin dumps. So it's a shift. And again, whenever you notice a change in market environment, it's worthwhile to pause. That means auto pause, because a change in market environment means likely the trading style that you have been using, if it has been working, is going to stop working as well, because it's been working in a specific market environment. And when that changes, your results change, which is why, playing oversold bounces, I'm way more aggressive when we're on uptrends on every time frame and we're playing back burner oversold bounces. And then the market environment changes into bigger picture consolidation, and I'm trading way less oversold bounces because it's a different market environment. And that's a skill set as a trader that you need to develop, the observation skills to recognize the change in market environment, because that's where, the new Reddit traders that all came on board into the market during the COVID dump, probably shouldn't say that word. I'm sure the YouTube bot's going to be mad at me. But the newer traders got used to one market environment. They traded it in a certain way. It worked. They made money. Trading's easy. And then the market environment shifts and they get crushed. And that's the lesson we all go through. I certainly learned that lesson many times. And when you recognize the market is shifting and you pump the brakes, you preserve your capital and you patiently wait for the indications or the observations that tell you, okay, I need to trade the market this way now. Oversold bounces are no longer working. Okay, I'm going to be patient until bulls prove trends to me. Rather than entering into weakness for an hourly oversold bounce, I'll be interested if the bulls shape up a 4-hour trend change. And really, it just means increasing patience level. So ETH BTC, if we can change the 4-hour trend back to the bulls, a daily bounce will be underway. But if we're going to defend this weekly support and prevent from another lower low, we will need a daily trend change back to the bulls. And we know that's not going to happen anytime soon. That's going to take days to develop. We need a multiple day bounce. We need a little pullback for a higher low. We need follow through. So at a minimum, we're talking 4 to 5 days that the bulls have to develop this trend change if this weekly support is to hold. If it does not hold, then the monthly uptrend is at risk. And bulls really want to hold monthly EMA 12. So Luna just saw a bit of a shift, and I made a mistake on a trade attempt, very small loss, fortunately. But I sat down at the computer and I saw, okay, Bitcoin's crushed, hourly RSI. All right, I haven't been in crypto. I made one bounce attempt on Mana, like I said last night, where Bitcoin bounced on the hourly, first hourly oversold conditions, sell partial, stop out, break even. But other than that, I haven't really done a whole lot in crypto recently. So, okay, Bitcoin hourly RSI in the teens, I'll nibble some entries for a short-term hourly oversold bounce. And I chose Luna because I looked at it and said, all right, I got a clear stop level to go off of, and we got a potential daily bull flag, and I know Luna BTC has been real strong and at all-time highs. And so I saw the support level and said, if this low holds, it is a bull flag. And I did not look at the BTC pairing well enough because I knew we're up at all-time highs, but it's a rising wedge because we had this tiny little bull break with zero follow-through and then a big drop. So I'm watching this uptrending support line right now, but had I recognized, double top and fast hard drop, I would have been a lot more patient and picky. So it was not, my plan was, okay, I'll enter a couple positions. I entered an initial position. I looked at this chart and said, nope, I don't want any more. It's possible we bounce off this uptrend line, but it's just not the setup that I'm looking for. And bigger picture, this is one to be keeping an eye on. Even if we do bounce from here all overnight, once this chart breaks, it will certainly stand out to us. And there's still tons of space for a daily high or low. It's not going to break the chart, but it will just give us a shift into some short-term relative weakness of Luna comparative to Bitcoin after being so much stronger for the last week and a half. So overall, Luna daily chart is still just fine, but we did break short-term support and we don't have much nearby support from here. I'm looking down at 83.82 and then not a whole lot in this range. So that's going to keep me a bit more picky and patient. That being said, an aggressive bull is absolutely scouting a daily high or low entry on Luna. And it is one of the strongest altcoins out there. It just wasn't a good spot for me to make an initial entry. So Luna BTC, we're watching that rising wedge. We'll see if the bulls can bounce off of that EMA 12 and keep that uptrend support line going. And I stopped out when 86 broke. Mana. So Mana still has my attention. And it's because Mana BTC is bouncing off of my downtrending support. So in the recent live stream, I think it was 2 days ago that I did, I said, if Mana is going to stay on my list of possible names to trade bullish, it must hold this downtrending support line for the potential of a 12-hour falling wedge. And so we did hold it, and it is still a potential falling wedge. So that is definitely keeping me a little bit interested, but what I would need to see here is multiple days of bounce, create the space for a trend change to try and shape up. Because if we drop down convincingly under this 12-hour downtrending support, I am way less interested in Mana as a bull. And right now, Mana is testing its daily support of 2456. The weekly bounce was not very strong at all. It didn't even really get going. We haven't even officially set a weekly high or low. It's a weekly inside bar right now. And if we do not see Mana BTC significantly shift this momentum, you can see we had a solid 6-day drop. It's trying to shift it right now, but it really needs to do or die. It's do or die time for the Mana BTC pairing to keep me interested in Mana as a bull. Because the last thing I want to see is a failure to set a weekly high or low and fade back down towards 170 on Mana. And Sand, similar metaverse name, Sand is scouting a monthly high or low. And it's a monthly inside bar, and we got monthly EMA 12 and a bit of a double bottom. But Sand BTC recently has also still been very weak, and it has not been able to find a bottom. It's trying to find a bottom, but it's still a clear daily lower high pattern. So there are a handful of names. The other one was Sol. Remember the last video, Sol? We were watching this channel right here, and I said, Sol, if you want to join the bull conversation, you've got to get over 24.54, that top. And the bulls are struggling. They're hanging around here. They're trying to set that monthly high or low off EMA 12 support. But they've got to shift this momentum and prove it. The burden is on the bulls. The bulls on this BTC pairing have not proven anything in months. That has to change. Same thing as Mana, but Sol BTC has been weaker for longer. So they both have proving to do if they're going to be in the bull conversation. And again, just pulling up the list here, we can see there's a bunch of red out there. BTC pairings need to shift. LTC BTC, and again, I'm not just going to stop talking about it because I highlighted it enough times. I'm watching this, but nope, no longer really paying attention at all because this bear break has followed through. And we needed to see something out of the bulls rather than just continuous weekly lower highs for months and fresh clear lows. So I am no longer interested in Litecoin nearly as much as I was 2 weeks ago. And again, it's the kind of thing where I'm not taking action on it. It's just a chart I'm watching and I'm ready. If that bull break takes place, I will be ready to strike aggressively on Litecoin. And it didn't, so I don't. And have a bunch of those that you're watching. If this happens, then I'll do this. And if it doesn't, see a chart, and now I've got space to be watching something else. So as far as, the coins I'm looking to trade, I'm not looking to trade 9 coins at a time. I'm focusing in on 2 or 3. And if Mana gets this bear break, Mana BTC, if it gets that bear break, it's off the list, and that'll make room that I will focus and trade and get comfortable with another name. All right, what are we on here? 24 minutes. What do you got to say in the chat room? Bitcoin, do we see another leg down yet? Yes. Bears still in absolute complete control. Hourly RSI approaching the low teens. 15-minute RSI back to crushed. 4-hour RSI getting oversold. 37,000 is the next support. So it is just complete bear control at this point. We are certainly due for an hourly bounce to cool off RSI and set a lower high. We'll be looking for a $1,000 bounce sometime shortly, but have to have a game plan to protect against the kind of trade that you don't want to be in, which is just perpetual falling and not having a stop and don't know the game plan and where you're going to look to exit. Next thing you know, you're staying up till midnight and the bulls just don't show up. Have to protect against that. The probability is the bulls will show up soon, but there's that little chance that they don't, and we have to protect against that little chance. Is ETH a double bottom? At the moment, it's right at its low. It has not broken to a clear lower low. So I know ETH BTC is trying to go up because it's not as weak as Bitcoin. But if Bitcoin doesn't find a bottom, we're not going to see any alts find any kind of confident bottom either. Golden pocket on the daily. Depends where you're measuring from. If we go to the 2-day time frame, smooth it out a little bit. Control F, make sure your magnet's on. So yeah, we are hitting that golden pocket. But again, it's, I'm so much more comfortable with the golden pocket coming from an uptrend. That double top is looming. Everybody's looking at it, and it gives bears confidence, and it makes bulls scared. And this reaction to that double top makes bulls lack confidence. Short. Let's talk short. So I don't short crypto because in the US there are very limited opportunities, exchanges to short crypto. And the ones that do don't meet criteria that I have for moving any kind of notable, worthwhile capital onto an exchange. So I'm not looking to short crypto, and I never have. And it's gone well. Even in 2018, I was green crypto playing bounces, but just trading it way less, being way picky. And again, everything's got to be extreme if I'm going to play bounces when everything's in a downtrend. But if you are looking bearish, you're patiently waiting. You have to determine, again, the question, whenever you're looking for a trade game plan, you're determining, number one, what direction are you looking? Okay, I'm looking bearish. Am I conservative or aggressive? If I'm aggressive, I'm scouting an hourly lower high. I'm certainly not entering anything bearish down here, but I'm scouting an hourly lower high, and that's when I'm looking to go bearish. If I want to be a little bit less aggressive, I'm scouting a 4-hour lower high to go bearish. If I want to be a little bit more patient, I'm scouting a daily lower high to go bearish. So the where you fall on the aggression spectrum determines which time frame is most important to you. The more aggressive, the more short term. The more patient, the more longer term. Patient bears got their weekly lower high top fish, and they are very pleased with how that played out. And again, they have no reason to cover. Put yourself in the bear's mindset. The only reason a bear's covering right now is they love their gains and they are protecting against the potential of a short-term hourly oversold bounce in the near-term future. But this is a lot of weakness. When's the last time Bitcoin's hourly RSI hit 13? It's been a long time. It hit 16 not too long ago. But this is the most beat up hourly RSI since we flushed under the 50s, and that was a long liquidity grab. That was a liquidation move. This is the last time the hourly RSI was this beat up. This is a brutal one, definitely. This is where we remind ourselves it can always go lower than we think. There are definitely, unfortunately, some trapped bulls who were playing this bounce $2,000 ago, and they are still in, unfortunately. Is it unreasonable to be a full-time, I like this question. Is it unreasonable to be a full-time crypto trader with no stocks? If you're doing really well, don't change a thing. Anytime you need to pivot and change something up, absolutely go to stocks. One of my major goals over the last 4 years that I've been trading both, man, it's almost 5 years now. It's almost 5 years. Time flies. One of my major goals is to get crypto traders to trade stocks, to get stock traders to trade crypto. Broaden your horizons. And right now we're in an environment where things are very correlated and they're doing the same thing. But there are often times where they're doing completely different things. And there's significant opportunity in crypto and not a whole lot of opportunity in stocks. And significant opportunity in certain sectors in stocks, and crypto's not doing a whole lot. And when you have that kind of scope that you can play, you know there is always an opportunity somewhere. And even when things get lulled, get boring and lack volatility, you can find volatility somewhere. And that makes you a more patient trader. I'm not going to sit here forcing, if I could only trade crypto and could only trade it bullish, I would be losing so much money over trading, trying to play bounces. But I just look at this and say, man, it's not a bounce that I like, not a setup that I want, and I'll just trade stocks today. And that prevents me from over trading less favorable setups and less favorable environments. So I would say if you are trading both directions in crypto and it's going real well, stick with it until it shifts. And then maybe it's a market environment that catches you by surprise that leads to that shift. Then it's time to branch out and look into other sectors. State of New Hampshire? No, I love New Hampshire, but not New Hampshire. EMA is a great guide for shorts. The hourly EMA, aggressive bears looking for hourly shorts. Next time we bounce, we're absolutely going to be scouting 4-hour EMA 12 resistance as a potential rejection point. And if I have a bear mindset, that's when I'm scouting my bearish entry. And then I zoom in. So if I know I'm scouting a 4-hour lower high and we're at 4-hour EMA 12 resistance, I zoom into the 15-minute time frame and I look for clues that the 4-hour lower high is being set. Maybe it gives me a 15-minute pullback that's big enough for me to scout a 15-minute lower high top fish. Low risk. If that's the top, I nail it. If it's not, I stop out without a significant loss. So determine the time frame that you are basing the trade on and then zoom in from there for the clues and the details that it is potentially shaping up. Fear is always a good area for DCA. Again, the dollar cost averaging, it depends on what your game plan is. 4-hour oversold. Daily oversold, obviously ideal. It all depends. It all depends on how much cash I have sitting, how much I want to utilize in the near term. I would definitely be saving some for the potential of a flush under 30,000. If stocks stay weak, Bitcoin is likely to break 30,000. It's that simple. If stocks keep hitting fresh lows, Bitcoin is likely to break 30,000. We are at, we're sitting on a runaway train here, and the conductor is the broader stock market right now. And the fear and the sentiment and the Russia headlines and the Fed and rates headlines, those are driving short-term price action. And you can zoom out to long-term charts and talk about halvenings and widespread adoption all you want. But when you're zoomed in, that's the world we live in now. And it's because of the market cap size. It's because of institutional involvement. And in my opinion, it's only going to continue to strengthen correlations with the major broader stock markets and assets in the world. Conservative bulls are watching for a potential playoff weekly support. But if you're conservative, you're waiting. You're not trying to nail a bottom. You're waiting for a big bounce. If I'm conservative, I'm waiting for a 4-hour bounce where I can say, okay, that's a big bounce. I didn't get any of that. I'll scout the higher low. I'll use the recent low as a stop. But at this point, really the only play that I like as a bull, aside from looking for some oversold bounces, is closer down near the 34, 33 level. And with where we stand right now, that risk is too large. There's too much space in between that longer term level. So the only bulls looking for entries right now are bulls looking for daily bounces, knowing that a daily lower high is the most likely scenario. BTC on the monthly is still an uptrend. As long as 29s hold. What did I press? It'll be very notable to me, bigger picture, if we confirm a monthly downtrend. Same thing with the broader stock market. You look at SPY. Go to the SPY 2-month time frame. Is there anything wrong with that chart? I mean, you want to talk fear. Imagine this is a 5-minute time frame, an hourly time frame, a daily time frame. This is an extremely strong chart. So if you're talking broader stock market weakness, and if you're saying it's going to be a bear 2022, again, I don't try and predict what the year is going to look like. I take it a day at a time, but you need a lot more downside for this to get ugly. Look at the retracement. The move was insane off the COVID lows. We're not even close to the 382 retracement. Drop another 10% before we get in that ballpark. So there is short-term fear in the stock market, but zoom out and it's nothing. Nothing. Look at Apple. There is no fear in Apple whatsoever. Bitcoin's retraced a lot more significantly. Metals are definitely doing well. They've looked good for a long time. I've got exposure in metals. I did not grab more. I don't love the... Honestly, I'm spoiled with volatility is what it is. 3 times leveraged ETFs with the biotech sector, crypto. I mean, for gold to have a massive 10% move over a month when you can see a Bitcoin 10% move in a day, it's hard for me to park my capital and just let it sit. And again, if you're looking bearish, you're looking at the names that have BTC pairings in prolonged downtrends. And ADA is one of them. ADA BTC can bounce in the short term, but it's a simple statement. If EMA 12 is resistance, the bears have absolute complete control as they have had for months. So if I'm looking bearish, I want to see Bitcoin bounce, maybe a 4-hour bounce. I want to see the alt that I'm scouting. I want to see its chart bounce. Theta is another one on the weekly. I want to see it bounce and cool things off and get near resistance so that if it does change its character and if it does shift momentum, I'll know quickly and it won't be a big loss. You know, I don't want to short down here and then we see the weekly bounce. I want to short after the weekly bounce and then be playing for the lower high so that there's less risk being taken on. And I know very quickly, if I'm shorting here, let's try that again. If I'm shorting here and then we break resistance, okay, that's a red flag. But if I'm shorting here, plenty of space to still set the lower high and remain in the longer term downtrend. So find the alt BTC pairings that are in prolonged downtrends and that are bouncing, but likely to just form another lower high. QQQ weekly close is just shaping up for another potential weekly lower high. If we break the low this week, first thing next week, which will be in play potentially right away, it's just another weekly lower high, and we head back down towards our recent fear lows. I will be looking to add long-term no-touch positions in weekly oversold conditions. You know, if I look at the S&P 500, I'm talking about stocks at this point, but if I look at the S&P 500 historically, what happens when the weekly hits oversold? I mean, you go back a couple decades, that's the time to buy. And if I'm looking long-term no touch and looking a decade out, then I will definitely nibble some positions. in weekly oversold. But we would need another clear leg down. We would need to break 400. But I will buy long-term no touch fear. The only other time I've ever done that in the stock market was during COVID, and that position is up 90% right now. All these coins are coins that had their heyday. You know, ADA, Link, they had their heyday, but they have fallen off for such a long time. And we saw it with Luna. Luna is showing us this has to happen on the BTC pairing for a breakout. And if it's not happening, and if it just keeps fading, it's not going to enter the bull conversation. And you want to enter the bull conversation, so bull traders are looking to jump in and add that volume and that momentum. And there's just so many trends that need to change one time frame at a time. You know, Link's in a monthly downtrend. Link is in a monthly, weekly, daily downtrend. Well, not daily. Monthly, weekly downtrend. It's going to take a long time to change that. You got to bounce on the monthly for multiple months. You got to pull back for a month or two. You got to confirm a monthly trend change for a couple months. So unless there's some kind of news, huge spike out of nowhere, you're looking at months and months before you shift those trends to gain uptrends. Waves, pennant. Don't really use, I use the term equilibrium for pennant, and it oftentimes confuses people. What time frame are we looking at? So a little bit of an equilibrium here that broke bull, didn't see a whole lot of follow through. So yeah, you don't want to break resistance and then confirm a downtrend right after. So daily consolidation is likely shaping up. Big bearish reversal candle. Tons of space for a daily high or low. But these upper wicks are showing some bull exhaustion. No leverage ETF on SPY. If I'm buying long-term no touch, it's just boring old common shares. I want some dividends. I'll maybe look at cost. Cost still has a fine monthly chart. Nice dividends on cost. Tesla, I could go with some Tesla long-term. But again, only if the S&P 500 hits weekly oversold and we get some solid fear. All right, I'm wrapping it up. I hope you all have a great weekend. Appreciate you tuning in. I like the live. I used to do live a lot more in 2017 when things were hype and the YouTube algos loved us. YouTube used to give us 12,000 views on our crypto videos. Such a big bump. And now the YouTube algos don't like us anymore. It's also because over the last 4 years, we went from being one of the few games in town already with an established technical analysis channel ready for crypto. And now there's 850 million. All right, do good things out there. Get outside if it's nice. It's almost time here to be planting some peas and carrots, starting some seedlings. And we'll see you next week. Have a good weekend.